Drum sanders, what are they, what do they do, and do you need one? So as you can see here, I have two different drum sanders in the workshop. I have what's called a dual drum sander, which has a drum at the front and a drum at the back. And then I have a single drum sander. This is the Lumberjack. This is the 18-inch variable speed sander. It's a great bit of kit. I love this. And I love this one as well. But I do use them for very different purposes. This one is set up as more of a finishing sander. We have 150 and 240 on the back. This one has 80 grit on the drum, and I use it for cleaning up boards. You know, if I've got floorboards that I need to run through, stuff that I don't necessarily want to run through the planer thicknesser. Right, so I've mentioned planer thicknesser. Let's hit that straight off the bat then, right? These are not for thicknessing material. What these are for finishing material. If you try and use one of these as a thicknesser, what you're going to do is it's going to bind into the wood, it's going to bog down, and it's going to cut itself out, or it will trash the motor in it. When using a drum sander, I tend to only take about 1/4 to 1/2 millimeter off at any given point. I don't think there's any need to take any more off than that. Just put it in and just repeat it, rinse and repeat for a few times, and you're going to save no end of time compared to sanding with a random orbital sander or something like that. Plus, it's going to give you a uniform finish. And this is really where these excel. Say, for example, you're making a bunch of shaker doors that you've done style and rails, right? Put them into a drum sander, and it's going to make sure that everything is finished to exactly the same thickness. Everything's finished flat. It's going to look awesome. If you're making end grain chopping boards, again, these are going to be perfect. Everybody's seen the scary stories when you're putting an end grain chopping board into a planer thicknesser. That'll be a fun one if it shoots back at you, or catches, or pulls, or anything like that. Whereas you can pop that into here or here and just take many little passes, and it will come out with a beautiful finish on it. Now, there is one thing to say with these is because the drum doesn't oscillate, it just spins. What you are going to get left with is you will be left with lines along the top of the workpiece. It can be a bit of a pain when you're using 80 grit because obviously those lines are going to be quite deep, but that's why we just use that for removal and cleanup. And then that's why we finish with a 150 and 240 on this one, because as it goes through, even though it leaves lines on it, they'll be sanded to 240, and then I'll take it over to my Merkur random orbital sander, my Deros, and we'll pop a 180 grit on there and give it a quick finish. Drum sanders normally come in a couple of sizes. This one is 635mm wide, and it's a closed end, so you only get the 635mm. This is an 18-inch sander, and obviously it's open-ended. So what people tend to do is that they have wider boards, they'll put it in this way, and then they'll turn it 180 degrees, and they'll put it in. So they'll put it in like this, and it will come through, and then they'll turn it 180 degrees and put it through like this. This one here is obviously a lot smaller than this one as well. This requires a 16 amp supply, this doesn't. This requires huge amount of dust extraction, this one doesn't. It just extracts out to the bag because it has an internal fan that pulls it through. They can be expensive and they can be very specialised. I think when I bought this, it was $2.5 grand. Certainly not that now, it's a lot more money than that. This one runs to about $900 to $1,000. And so yeah, they are quite specialised, they are quite expensive for what they are, but when you're using them, if you have a specific job, it's like the domino, right? The festival domino. The domino is really good at putting dominoes in. It's not very good at anything else, is it, right? Drum sanders are really good at what they do, but they only do that one particular thing. They just do it really well. They're all relatively the same, okay? You'll have a table that moves up and down. Same on this one, it's the same on this one. They just have a different wheel on different areas. Then you'll have the main drum, and then you'll have some sort of extraction, which will either give you a slot where you can pull the air out of, or like on this one, it will push the air into the bag using the internal fan system. They'll all usually have a way to vary the speed of the belt, because obviously if you're taking a thicker amount off or you're using a wider board, you want to slow the belt down. If you slow it down too much, you're going to burn the board. If you do it too quickly, you might bog down or create too much stress on the motor. So it's always a bit of a finicky. I always tend to run ear protection, and I'll have one full on here and one half on this side, just so I can listen to what the motor is doing. Because you can't see what's going on with the drum, it's easier to listen, and as you use it more, you'll be able to hear whether it's bogging down or barely touching the wood, and so you can adjust the height and the speed of the belt to that particular workpiece. So just a quick recap before we go then. These are not for thicknessing material, they are for finishing work. Okay, if you try to use this as a thicknesser, it's going to break. You'll break the belt, you'll rip the paper on the drum, it's going to cause you no end of hassle. The heavier the grit, so 60, 80, 100 grit, you're going to have deeper lines on there. You will always have lines on a drum sander because the drum is only spinning in place and it's not oscillated. So that's something to be aware of, that you may need to just finish the workpiece up with your random orbital sander or something like that. One thing to think about before you purchase a drum sander is the amount of paper or cloth really that you're going to be using in terms of sanding. From my limited knowledge, you want to go for something that's a J-Flex, which means that it's a cloth back paper, aluminium oxide, and because it's a J-Flex means it's super flexible. Do not use sandpaper, it will tear. Another quick hint for you, if you're just setting up a drum sander or you're thinking of getting one, when you put the roll on there, so when you put it on and you wrap it all the way around, put something through on a single pass, then open it up and see whether the cloth has stretched or moved, and just readjust everything to keep it tight. You must keep it tight, because if you don't, it will catch, it will fold over itself and it will tear. So all of that considered then, would you buy one, would you not? Do you think there's a place for it in your workshop? I love my drum sanders. I think they're very, very good, but I am a commercial workshop. We do use them a lot. And when we use them, they save us a lot of time, and obviously time is money, right? So for us, they work out great. And so that's down for you to decide as to whether the initial purchase price and then the cloth, the ongoing bits and pieces, is going to be worthwhile compared to just the additional work with your random orbital sander. So I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope that's cleared up some questions. If you have any more questions, please drop them down below. If you're still here, you're awesome. Thank you very much, and I shall see you on the next video.